Strict new gun control laws were set to start this Thursday, but that is delayed following a state judge's ruling today.
Oregon state judge temporarily blocks Measure 114. Welcome to another installment of the Connecticut Gun Bench. Today's video is brought to you by P.A.N. Firearms, LLC. P.A.N. Firearms, your NRA certification and multifaceted gun training. You can reach us at 203-300-6343 or use our website at www.panfirearmsllc.com. As always, there'll be a link in the description box below. And let's talk about this. So, as you know, Measure 114 passed in Oregon, very narrow margin, but it passed. And it was supposed to go in effect next week, actually, if I'm not mistaken. It's mid-December. It's supposed to happen. But what has happened now is a judge has jumped in, state judge, and has temporarily blocked the measure, basically on constitutional grounds. But let's go ahead and watch this because we need context.
Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Brittany Folgers. Now, that news came just after a federal judge appeared to hand Measure 114 supporters a victory. Mike Benner is in the newsroom tonight, sorting through it all. Mike.
Hey, Brittany, it was a complicated day for sure, but the bottom line tonight, the gun control measure will not go into effect later this week as originally planned. But let me set the stage of how we got here. Late last week, the Oregon Firearms Federation, along with several Oregon sheriffs, went into federal court in hopes of getting a judge to block Measure 114. Measure 114, of course, was passed by a majority of voters just last month. The ballot measure requires background checks before the sale or transfer of a gun, bans magazines that hold more than 10 rounds, and requires permits to purchase a gun. Well, this morning, federal judge Karen Immergut ruled against the plaintiffs who argued Measure 114 violates the constitutionally protected right to bear arms. The judge says that's not the case, and the measure should go into effect Thursday. But all of that was short-lived. A few hours later, a state judge in eastern Oregon's Harney County ruled in favor of another set of plaintiffs in a separate case that also was trying to block the measure from going into effect. The judge granted a temporary restraining order against Measure 114, blocking the law until he can hear more arguments about the case. Lewis and Clark law professor Tung Yin tells us he's not surprised an eastern Oregon judge sided with gun enthusiasts.
Since state judges are elected, although they're going to be doing their best, they're necessarily going to be responsive to their constituencies to a certain extent because, you can get voted out of office. And so, one would expect that in the eastern part of the state that the judges would be naturally more receptive to gun right claims.
All right, it's worth mentioning again, because of what transpired in eastern Oregon today, Measure 114 will not take effect Thursday. The state judge's ruling takes precedence here because he was looking at the case through the lens of the Oregon Constitution that offers more protections and rights than the U.S. Constitution that was at the center of the federal case. We expect more developments next week, and we'll be sure to bring them to you.
Heard that and you saw that. I'm going to jump immediately over to here. So, Breitbart. Oregon High Court won't let voter gun control measure begin. Okay. Oregon's tough voter-approved gun control law. You know, it's voter-approved. It barely got by. Barely. But voter-approved, like everybody was on board. No, not everyone was on board. Not even close. But gun control law remains temporarily blocked. Oregon's High Court won't let voter gun control measure begin by Jillian Flackus, Associated Press. Okay. Portland, Oregon. Oregon's tough voter-approved gun control law remains temporarily blocked after the Oregon Supreme Court declined to overturn an earlier decision preventing the measure from taking effect Thursday. Wow. Chief Justice Martha Walters late Wednesday denied the emergency motion to intervene filed early in the day by State Attorney General Ellen Rosenbaum. The measure includes a ban on the sale and transfer of high-capacity magazines. It also requires permits, criminal background checks, fingerprinting, and hands-on training courses for new gun buyers. Harney County Judge Robert Rascio blocked it Tuesday, just hours after a federal judge ruled in favor of the law. The Oregon Department of Justice argued in an urgent filing that Rascio got it wrong. Magazine capacity restrictions and permitting requirements have proven track records they save lives. Notice they're not putting any kind of information in there for you to go see this. That's nonsense. Okay, I want to point out once again that 4 Idaho students lost their lives by being stabbed to death. Okay, violence does not begin and end with the firearm. Okay, it's unbelievable. They just can't get past that point. But Attorney General Ellen Rosenbaum said in a statement, "We are confident the Oregon Constitution, like the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, allows these reasonable regulations." Well, I don't actually see in the Constitution where it says you have to, where it says you need to be permitted or you need a background. But, I'm not against it, but I'm just saying. They're saying these are reasonable regulations that fall within the Constitution. All the Constitution really says is the right to bear arms. But several lawsuits have challenged the measure, which voters narrowly approved last month. The measure's fate is being carefully watched as one of the first new gun restrictions after the Supreme Court in June struck down a New York law limiting the carry of guns outside the home, NYSRPA versus Bruin. The Oregon measure bans the sale and transfer or import of magazines over 10 rounds unless they are owned by law enforcement or a military member, which is, they're kind of a higher class of people, more trained, more reasonable, more responsible. Come on, that's nonsense. A law enforcement person or a military person is the same thing as your average civilian. They're just an American going about their lives. So I don't buy into that crap that they are somehow better and can have these things where other people can't. But or were owned before the measure's passage. Those who already possess high-capacity magazines can have them only in their homes or use them at firing ranges and shooting competitions or for hunting as allowed by state law after the measure takes effect. But I can skip all this. Okay? U.S. District Judge Karen Immergut delivered an initial victory Tuesday to the measure's proponents, ruling that the ban on the sale and transfer of high-capacity magazines could take effect Thursday. She also granted a 30-day delay before the law's permit to purchase mandate takes effect. But she did not quash it entirely as gun right advocates had wanted. Hours later, the Harney County judge put the law on hold. In that case, Gun Owners of America, Inc., the Gun Owners Foundation, and several individual owners alleged that the measure violates Oregon's Constitution and sought to have it blocked while that question was decided. As I said in my other video, gun sales and background checks skyrocketed when this thing, like 400% plus. It was unbelievable. But, okay, so you don't need to read the rest of that. You get the gist of it. We'll have to watch and see where this goes because it's only temporarily blocked, which means probably sales and transfers of, and probably magazines, purchase of magazines over 10 rounds are probably going through the roof. But hopefully this is just the beginning to drag it all the way to the Supreme Court and have the Supreme Court give the end all to this whole thing. And it is unconstitutional. It is unconstitutional. You're creating... It's not so much that it's unconstitutional as to the wording of the Second Amendment. It's also unconstitutional on the grounds that you're creating classes of people who can have something and people who can't have something. Okay? Law enforcement and military, especially law enforcement, are going to protect, once again, I call them the elites, the elected officials. So they're saying their lives are more important than the average person. And that's not going to fly. But let me know what you think. As always, you can leave your comments in the comment section below. And as always, any statements of violence or statements that lead to violence will be removed. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you're notified the next time a video goes live. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.